When I was younger, I was part of an elite team of commandos. We were on a mission in the South American jungle to intercept a rogue faction of Marxist guerrillas. We found them camped in a cluster of bamboo huts along the river. Our orders were to engage, and engage we did. When the smoke cleared, almost all the guerrillas had fallen, along with a few of ours. The only one of theirs still standing was a woman somewhere between the ages of 19 and 30. We took her with us and marched back into the jungle. The air was silent as we walked in what must have looked like a loose conga line through the undergrowth and toward the extraction point. I think the woman noticed it first, upon playing it back in my head over the years. I noticed a perplexed, wary expression come over her face as her eyes darted around the trees. The jungle was quiet. On the way in, it was alive with the sounds of birds, insects, tree frogs, and what have you. I chalked the silence up to our recent firefight. The noises of the jungle were no longer there to mask our footfalls, and it was making me nervous. Not to mention that in that deep quiet, every sound I did hear was ultimately more alarming. My brother Commando bringing up the rear was the next to notice something. He gave the hand signal for everyone to stop and assume the ready position. Everyone hunkered down in the thick foliage and rested fingers on triggers. The woman from the guerrilla encampment just hunkered down, as we weren't about to let her have a weapon. We heard the violent shaking of branches overhead as something barely visible leapt through the canopy. I heard the woman whisper "Dios mio" under her breath. This was the first time I remember hearing her speak. She crossed herself with her index finger. Exactly in the moment that gesture was finished, something unseen slammed into the man next to me and carried him out of sight. All that was left of him was a bloody boot with a foot still in it. Whatever it was came shrieking back, and we opened fire. Caught momentarily in the stream of gunfire, I could almost make out the shape like a man, though it was kind of hard to say. It appeared in the way a pavement makes the air shimmer when it's hot. Only the lines were vaguely man-shaped, and then it was gone again. I and 3 others cautiously approached the area where it had been. A thick yellow-green liquid coated the leaves and the ground. "Blood," I said. "This means we can kill it." We reloaded and scanned the jungle in all directions. Nothing, just that eerie silence. We now walked in double file so we could see in all directions as a group. After about an hour, it came leaping through the trees again, and we opened fire. Though I don't think any of us hit it that time. A sound like a sandbag slamming into a side of beef, and one more of us was gone. Only his rifle was left behind. I picked it up and yelled, "Run now!" We ran for what felt like a lifetime, but was more likely 10 minutes. "I think it's gone," I remember the man farthest in the front saying, right before something grabbed his shoulders and hauled him shriekingly into the trees. We pointed our guns nervously around the forest. I heard a tiny choked gasp from the woman, and I turned to look at her. Standing right in front of her was that thing. It must have been about 8 feet tall. I could see the jungle right through it, and I remember vaguely thinking, that's the perfect camouflage, as I stood there with my jaw hanging open. The thing pushed past her, snatched another soldier up, and was gone again. We opened fire, and another of us was quickly picked off. His rifle was left behind. I watched dumbfounded as the thing hopped from tree to tree, then on the shoulder and neck. Sometimes carrying away entire bodies, sometimes just taking the heads. At some point, I realized I'd dropped my rifle. Looking down at my rifle, then back at the scene unfolding in front of me, I had a funny thought. Had I only seen a bloody boot with a foot still inside of it at the scene of the first attack? Or did I notice his M16 hanging on a low branch, not too far out of reach? I called out even before the thought was fully formed. Throw your weapons on the ground and do it now. The orgy of gunfire continued until there were just 5 of us left. I doubt anyone could have heard me over the shooting and screaming, and I doubt they would have listened even if they had. At the end, they just stood there looking tired and sad, holding their weapons at their sides, all limp-like. One by one, they sank to their knees as their heads were plucked off as easily as someone picking a dandelion. At that point, I began walking in the general direction of where I thought the extraction point was. I walked slowly at first, but within a few minutes I had broken into a run. To my surprise, I had found the extraction point almost without thinking, and I could see the tiny chopper on the horizon. The girl from the camp kept pace with me. I stared at the tiny black dot that was my way out of this horror show. I was willing it to get there faster when a strong hand picked me up by my neck and pinned me against a tree. There it was, all shimmering and transparent, and it had its hand around my throat. Struggling to breathe with my windpipe closed, I flailed my arms and knocked some kind of mask or faceplate off of this thing. Suddenly, its shimmering camouflage was gone. There, squeezing the life out of me, was the frame of a monstrous 8-foot-tall man with a face like a deer tick, mated with a hairless mole rat. I muttered something about what an ugly cuss that thing was, and then I remembered the knife in my boot. I went blank for a moment, and that next thing I know, that thing was on the ground, and I was ruining its face with my boot knife. Once satisfied it wasn't going to get up again, I rolled away, dazed. That's when I heard the woman speak for the second and final time. "Cuidado," she shouted and pointed at the creature. I heard what sounded like a low chuckling as it armed an alien-looking device on its wrist. The chopper was close now, and I signaled it by reflecting the sun with a small mirror. Once my signal was returned, I grabbed the girl's arm and we ran. As the chopper descended, I yelled, "Gideon, go! Igar el helicoptero, go, go!" I looked back as we flew away. A giant plume of flame and smoke rose up from the spot we'd just occupied. That was years ago. Since then, I've been married, had kids, sent said kids to college, gotten divorced, and watched my kids grow into adults. And through every minute of every day, I've always felt like I'm prey to something large. Just to